Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Ignorant Intellectual on Media. It's been a while since I put up a video. I've been on vacation. Brought my family to Disney World and Universal Studios down in Florida. It was quite fun, and it was free. So, well, we had to spend a few $100s, but basically the whole trip was free, um, which is cool. If you get to go to Disney World for free, we visit everything but except Epcot. We didn't have the time to get to Epcot, so that's a bit disappointing. But all the Universal and all the Disney, and we even went to Legoland, so it was quite fun. But the heat in Florida is pretty brutal. So walking around all day, 8 hours in that heat is pretty brutal. Uh, Luckily, we prepared for it with hats and uh, sunblock and other things, cold water, right? So anyway, um, so in that time, I didn't buy much, but still, since I've gotten back, I've bought some more stuff, and I've watched some more stuff that I've bought previously. So um, I don't know if I'm ever going to really catch up though. So there always seems to be stuff piling up, right? So I think I'll burn through some stuff to get it out of my desk, and we'll see how that goes. All right. So it's basically a thrift store haul and a mixed haul. So I guess a mixed haul would probably be what it would be, since I got stuff new and some stuff from the ads, Kijiji or Facebook Marketplace, and some stuff at the thrift stores. All right, so let's go through some of it. All right, so um, let's see here. Night Kill. This is a Kino Lorber Studio Classics. This film stars Jaclyn Smith of Charlie's Angels fame, if you remember her. All right, and Robert Mitchum. All right, so it's actually just watched it yesterday, and Kino Lorber cleaned it up pretty good because it's from 1980. Uh, the film is from 1980, and it's directed by Toby Miller. I think it's Toby Miller, isn't it? Who directed this? Ted Post. Sorry, not Toby. Ted Post. All right. So he's directed some of the didn't he direct some of the Clint Eastwood Dirty Harry films and some other stuff Clint Eastwood did as well. Anyway, so Ted Post directed it. So when I watched the film, I go, okay, this is a typical 70s, early 80s film, like a B movie almost. And I'm going, so I got maybe, I don't know, 20 minutes into it, 30, and I'm going, I think I might stop this film and watch something else. But um, then something happened in the film. I went, oh, okay, this starting to look like a Hitchcock film, really. So basically what happened is, Jaclyn Smith, she's married to a wealthy guy, and she has a mister on the side, um, who also works for her husband, and then he ends up poisoning her husband. And then they put the husband, after he dies from poisoning, into the fridge in the house, or sorry, the freezer in the house. And then later on in the film, she goes back because she's going to dump the body. Um, and she opens up the fridge, and it's her mister that's in opens up the freezer, and it's her mister that's in the freezer. I went, whoa, didn't see that coming. And then the film got interesting, and then I watched the rest of it. So, and Robert Mitchum plays a big role in it. So, but anyways, I don't want to wreck the film. It's a good film. Kino Lorber. See, Kino Lorber is kind of hit and miss. Um, of the boutique cinemas, they're the most reasonably priced. Although so is Eureka's Masters of Cinema. You can get them a lot of the film, the Masters of Cinema films on Amazon for under $20 each. So that's a reasonable price. You can also get a lot of Kinos for under 20, right? So they're reasonably priced. Now they're not super packaged like you would see in a say an Indicator or a Criterion or whatever, or an Arrow. When they really doll up the doll up the uh, the issue or whatever with a nice hard cardboard box set with books and everything else. Kinos don't really come out that way, so that's the reason why they're more reasonably priced. But they really blanket a lot of cinema that it's just it's okay cinema, but there's nothing really special about the cinema that they're putting out, unlike other labels where they go in and they go look for some deep cuts in the different libraries and come out with these classic gems, right, that people haven't seen, but they're really good. So I thought that this would be a boring one, but then that twist kind of switched it around and made the film enjoyable. So if you haven't seen Night Kill with Jaclyn Smith, watch it. It's not bad. You just have to be patient until you see the twist. Anyways, all right. So next up after that is Secrets and Lies, and this is who directed this? Mike Leigh, the British guy, Mike Leigh. And this film is a friggin' outstanding film. All right. I showed my Canadian saying friggin', right? Friggin', I think that's a Canadian expression, isn't it? All right. So this is an extremely good film if you have not watched this. And this woman here who plays the mother, all right, what is her name? Brenda Blethyn. Blethyn. Oh, and no,
I love you.
love you. Brenda Blethyn. Brenda Blethyn. Her. That one right there. That girl right there. Woman. All right. Outstanding. 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 I mean, God, she was awesome in this film. Uh, I haven't seen a performance like that in I don't know how long. It just um, anyway. So it's called Secret and Lies, and basically she plays kind of like a slut, basically in her youth, where she was sleeping around a lot, and she ends up. Well, they actually never explain it. So, but she ends up having her as a daughter, but she doesn't know. All right, so she has a black daughter. Now, the black daughter, she's an optometrist, and her dad died earlier before time that this film is being taken place. But in this film, her it opens with her mother's death, her funeral, her mother's funeral. So then she starts wondering about, because she was adopted, she starts wondering about her biological parents, especially her biological mother. So she decides to go to the adoption agency that gave uh, that adopted her and get the information on her mother and go see her mother. And her mother is the one that the actress that did such a great job, Brenda Black. All right, so how does that come about and be believable that a white woman had a black child, right? So, and anyways, the reaction when the two actually meet is oh my God, it's just cinema magic. It's just amazing that uh, Mike Leigh does an extremely good job in this film. This is after watching this film, this has become one of my all-time favorite films, and I'm going to watch it again just to see if it'll stay there. But on first watching, it's extremely good. I don't want to wreck the film for you, but yeah, it's quite an awesome film. It's basically about a woman whose mother died, a black woman in London, um, and she goes searching for her birth mother. Her birth mother ends up being white, and anyways, it goes on from there. And the mother has a extremely dysfunctional family, to say the least. All right, so that's Secrets and Lies, a film by Mike Leigh. All right, so next up is The Arrow, uh, Hellbound, Hellraiser 2. I watched this back in the 80s. This came out in the 80s, if I remember correctly. Um, and I was never really extremely impressed by the Hellraiser franchise. Pinhead or whatever his name is. It got a little bit too, well, hellish. Let's put it that way. Less about frightening, more about like devil worship and stuff like that. It just got really creepy, and it never really turned my crank watching them. But I found this film along with some other films that I bought, so it came with it. And Hellraiser is a franchise that I might revisit because I haven't watched it in like 40 years, 30 years. So, um, same with this one, The Exorcist 2, The Heretic. It's new, still in its packaging. It's directed by John Borman. I collect John Borman films, so I picked this up, although this is not a very good film if you haven't seen it. All right. Next up after that is Pilgrim versus the World, and this is quite a fun film. All right. Um, it's kind of like cartoonish, superhero-ish, reality, not reality kind of thing. Um, and that uniqueness is what makes this film such a good, such a good film. And it's directed by Edgar Wright, the guy that did that buddy cop film, with Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, and the zombie film Shaun of the Dead. So very good film if you haven't seen it. So I have it on DVD, but I didn't have it on Blu-ray, so I picked it up. Same with Raging Bull. I had it on DVD, but I didn't have it on Blu-ray, so I picked it up. This is a very good, probably maybe the second or third best boxing film ever made. You've got Rocky's probably the first. $1 Million Baby is another one that's really good. Cinderella Man's pretty good with Russell Crowe, and this one is very good as well with Robert De Niro, directed by Martin Scorsese. All right, if you haven't seen it, watch it. All right, and then I found this film, a nice Criterion. This is a 4K Criterion of Menace to Society. All right, the Singleton film, was it Singleton? No, the Hughes brothers. I keep confusing John Singleton with the Hughes brothers with their films, right? So anyway, so Menace to Society. It's a really nice edition, 4K edition with a booklet and the Blu-ray and the 4K. So it's really nice. I found this along uh, with the next film I'm going to show you. So what number is this, anyways? This is number 1105. All right. So 1105, Menace to Society. All right. So I picked that one up along with this one, A Scanner Darkly, which I have on DVD, but I didn't have on Blu-ray. And this is I don't know if this is my all-time favorite Linklater film, Richard Linklater, but it's up there. I mean, Dazed and Confused is really good. Boyhood is pretty good, and Linklater has a eclectic feel to his films. I mean, they're always a little bit strange, right? So, um, and this one starring Keanu Reeves is and what's his name from Cheers? Woody from Cheers, Woody Harrelson. Um, very good stuff. Very strange film. All right. Then just yesterday I found Goodfellas in a steelbook. Not too bad, right? On Blu-ray, steelbook Blu-ray, right? And Goodfellas. A lot of people argue that this is Scorsese's best film, but I personally think it's Taxi Driver. Taxi Driver outshines Goodfellas, even though Goodfellas is a really good, uh, gangster film. It's like a biography of Ray Liotta. He talks through the film and tells you all about mob life in the '70s, in the '70s and '80s. Um, it is quite an enjoyable film. It's one of my all-time, up there with probably The Godfather as the two best. Well, Godfather Part Two is my favorite out of the three Godfather films. Godfather Two and Goodfellas are probably the two best gangster films of all time. But um, next up we have Henry V. I just picked this up yesterday as well. Um, Criterion DVD. I have not watched this film yet, so um, I'll let you know after I watch it. But this one is numbered 41 in the collection, so it's an early version, early one in the Criterion Collection. All right, and I picked up Led Zeppelin 4. All right, um, arguably Led Zeppelin's greatest album. Most people will choose this one if they're choosing any Led Zeppelin album as their greatest, but it has Black Dog and Where the Levee Breaks, The Battle of Evermore, Stairway to Heaven, that Misty Mountain Hop. But Stairway to Heaven is the one that most people mention as probably Led Zeppelin's greatest song on their greatest album, Led Zeppelin 4. But my favorite song by them is Ramble On, and it's on Led Zeppelin 2, and I like Led Zeppelin 2 better than Led Zeppelin 4. Um, but this is one of the all-time greatest albums. A lot of people would put it in their top 10, right? So if you have not listened to Led Zeppelin, probably the greatest hard rock band of all time. All right. Okay. So next up is Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen, one of the classic 19th century English novels. Austen wrote a bunch, with the Brontes and George Eliot. If you center on those women and read those novels, you get a really good idea of English life in the mid to late 19th century, right? So, um, and they're quite good reads. This is put out by Oxford University Press. It's the latest version of their library. All right, and these sell really well, so that's the reason why I picked it up. All right, and next up after that is Lowest of the Low, Canadian band. They have an album called Shakespeare My Butt that is extremely good, and it's probably one of the greatest Canadian albums of all time. So I've listened to that a bunch of times, but uh, their stuff is hard to find. Just like many really good Canadian bands that weren't of the popularity level of a Brian Adams or something like that, or a Glass Tiger or whatever. It's hard to find their music a lot of the time. So Lowest of the Low. This one is called Sordid Fiction. All right, and I have not listened to it yet. So, but if you ever come across Lowest of the Low, Shakespeare My Butt, pick it up. It's extremely good. All right. So next up after that, Blood, the Last Vampire, another film I haven't seen yet. Um, I just picked it up because I like Japanese action films, especially the tongue-in-cheek type, and this looks like a tongue-in-cheek type of uh, action film from Japan. So I thought I'd pick it up. Next up after that is one of the Disney classics that I didn't have in my collection as of yet, um, and now I do. I only collect the animation. I mean, unless I'm forced to get the DVD because there is no Blu-ray, um, I will. Um, and Disney is popular enough that they've put out a lot of their stuff on Blu-ray. And here's one of Pinocchio, one of the classics, right, about a puppet boy who turns into a real boy. It's extremely good family fun. Let's put it that way. And it's the Blu-ray DVD edition, so it's great. So I will add that to my collection. Then I found this one new. The person who sold it to me bought it for $50, $49.99, and never watched it. And it's number 158 in the Criterion Collection. All right, the original Criterions. Um, and it is called The Importance of Being Earnest. Who wrote that book? The Importance of Being Earnest. Thomas Mann? Was it Thomas Mann? So much information here, but as you get older, it gets all confusing. Who wrote The Importance of Being Earnest? Anyways, it's one of the classic British novels, and then they made it a movie out of it, and Criterion cleaned it up and put it out on a Criterion. So this is still new, number 158. All right, and what else do we have? We have Bittersweet, one of the Warner Brothers Archive Collection DVDs, starring George Sanders, and I haven't watched this one either, so I will watch that one. So I got the Importance of Being Earnest, Bittersweet, and Naughty Marietta in a purchase. This one is W.S. Van Dyke directed it, and I collect W.S. Van Dyke films, early films, black and white films. All right, so we will see how that is. I haven't seen it. All right, so that's some. Let's go over here and do a bit more. I picked this up yesterday. The Sun Also Rises, one of Hemingway's greatest novels. The 1920s Paris, if I remember correctly, right? And then he goes to Pamplona to participate or watch the bullfighting in Pamplona, right? And this is an Arcturus. It's hard to pronounce it. The Arcturus. These are like the low budget classic books in soft cover. I usually will pick these up as I see them, and then I'll put 10 together and sell them for like $30. Um, because you buy them new for like 6, 7, 3 for 10, that kind of thing at your local bookstores, right? So the Sun Also Rises is considered by many as Hemingway's greatest novel. All right, although I like The Old Man and the Sea because it's a bit shorter and it's more interesting. All right, and then I found this uh, Penguin Classic, the gray versions. All right, modern classics. All right, and his Metamorphosis by Kafka. I can really easily sell this, so I picked this up when I saw it for $2, and I will resell it. It's his most famous story, Metamorphosis, and then they add some of the short stories along with it. Uh, so, and then I found this. Now I have a copy of it, but it's in a black dust jacket. I haven't seen this version of it before. And that's White Niggers of America. All right, so I don't know if you know much about Canadian history, but there's only been two political assassinations in Canada in its history. One was Darcy McGee back in like what was it like during John A. Macdonald's time back in the 1860s, wasn't it? Um, Thomas Darcy McGee. He was assassinated. He wasn't the prime minister. I think he was a member of cabinet, right? So, and then the second was Pierre Laporte, the minister in the Quebec government during the FLQ crisis. FLQ was a terrorist organization or a freedom fighting organization, depending on the way you want to look at it. But basically, back in the 60s, there was something called the Quiet Revolution in Quebec. It was French Canadians, distancing themselves from the Roman Catholic Church and uh, um, refusing to be under their thumb anymore, and they became more modern, more cosmopolitan, and more politically aware. Where Quebec was basically run by, socially by the Roman Catholic Church, and economically by English-speaking Canadians. Right, so all the wealth in Quebec was owned by English-speaking Canadians, or most of it, anyways. And the French were workers and peasants and farmers, right? So when they started they called it a quiet revolution because there was no violence in it. People just started going away from the traditions in Quebec and became more politically aware. And then what happened in the 60s and the early 70s is they became more radical, and there was a big Marxist element to it. And one of the biggest agitators is this gentleman. His name is Pierre Vallières. All right, so he was a member of the FLQ that kidnapped Cross, the British diplomat, and Pierre Laporte, the the minister in the Quebec government. I can't remember what portfolio he held. What was it? Uh, anyways, uh, I'll put it down here. Anyways, he kidnapped both of them in order to get their demands. They were blowing up mailboxes. They were threatening different private and government officials to start changing Quebec and making Quebec more French, right? Making Quebec an independent French nation out of the grasp of the rest of Canada, right? So um, that part of Canadian history I find the most interesting out of all of it. Out of all of Canadian history, the whole Quiet Revolution and all the literature that came out from that um, is quite interesting to read. And this is one of the big books of that. It's called White Niggers of America. But basically, it was written by Pierre Vallières when he was in prison. He was part of the FLQ that kidnapped, like I said, Cross, and so Cross ended up being let go alive, but Pierre Laporte was killed, murdered, and left in a trunk of a car. All right, and that was the second political assassination in Canadian history. There's only been two, and neither one of them, were a prime minister is usually a quote unquote a lesser political person or whatever. So, and yeah, so he was arrested for it, put in jail, but uh, and then he wrote White Niggers of America, but basically comparing, uh, French-speaking Canadians and especially Quebecers as second-class citizens, like the blacks are in 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 the United States. Anyways, it's a quite an interesting read, and it does open up your eyes on the way that the radical left think back during those tumultuous times of the civil rights movement in the United States and its bleed over into Canada with the French Canadians, right? So, um, quite an interesting read if you have not read it. White Niggers of America. All right. So, what else is here? Oh, oh I also found this one, The Red and the Black, from the bookstore that I usually, actually, these two, the complete short stories of Mark Twain and The Red and the Black by Stendhal. All right. So this is the Everyman Library, the newest version, the one that started in 1992, and this is numbered 346 in the library, and I hadn't had it yet. So now I have this one. There's like 400 or 500 in that library, and The Red and the Black. I also found it's a modern library. It's number 157 in the library, and I hadn't had that one either. So I had it, but there you go. See how it's price clipped. It's so hard to find books that aren't price clipped. A lot of older books, especially, people price clip them to, you know, to stop people from knowing what the price of it was when they bought it, right? So, um, anyway, so it's complete and unabridged, The Red and the Black. So I'll be adding that to my modern library. All right. And so those are those two books. What else do we have? Ghost Rider. A lot of people pan Ghost Rider, the two Nicolas Cage Ghost Rider films based on the comic book. But I quite enjoy them, Johnny Cage and Johnny Blaze. Sorry, I quite enjoyed them, so I ended up going, uh, ended up finding the second one, and I think I have the first one already, but I think it's in DVD, not Blu-ray. So we'll see. Oh, all right, and this one, I don't know if you've ever seen this one, the Donald Logue film. Who directed this? Uh, Jennifer Goodman. Um, I don't collect Jennifer Goodman films, but this one I watched when it first came out, and I thought it was quite funny, right? And it delves into that whole Zen type of idea of awareness, right? And it's called the Tao, or the Tao of Steve. It basically argues that you know Steve's behaving a certain way. Like there's a whole Tao around uh, the name Steve, right? Steve McQueen, all these tough, cool, good, awesome man's man type of characters, and they play off that in this film called The Tower of Steve. I don't know if you've seen it, but I'm gonna watch it because I haven't seen it in years. But I I laughed a lot when I watched it originally. All right, so all right, then I found this. The Horror Legacy series. Remember, I told you I was in previous videos. I told you I collect these ones. Well, here's one. It's Near Dark. It's got uh, it's got that kind of cover to it, right? Um, so I'm not sure how many are in the Horror Legacy series, but I think I have 5 or 6 of them now. I have not seen Near Dark, or if I have seen it, I don't remember it. So I will watch it and let you know. All right. So then I found this book, Animal Farm, one of the greatest novellas of all time. It's George Orwell's take on communism, um, where a whole bunch of animals on a farm decided to have a revolution and take over the farm from the farmer and have an egalitarian society, right? And what happens is the pigs take over, right? So, especially a pig named Napoleon, and it's quite quite interesting if you think of this as a communist critique, let's say. All right. So we got Animal Farm. We got The Making of the English Working Class by E.P. Thompson. All right. So this goes about all about the change from agrarian society into more cities, people moving into cities, into factories, into labor, and it goes through all that sociologically, right? So, and then I also found To the Lighthouse, Virginia Woolf's greatest book, right? Um, so I will sell that one. And then I found this Bantam classic, Villette, all right, by Charlotte Bronte, one of the Bronte sisters that I mentioned earlier. I have not read this book, so but it sells. And finally, I have one of the greatest satires of all time, Gulliver's Travels by Jonathan Swift, right? Him, this book and Modest Proposal, probably the two greatest satirical writings in the history of English literature, right? So it's basically about a guy who ends up on an island being captured by Lilliputian little men, right? And it can be read in that way, or you can take it back and compare it to the society that he lives in, and how he's being quite brutal to them, right? So anyway, so that's the stuff that I have now. I have more stuff over there, but I'm trying to watch stuff before I put it on. But sometimes it's just there's too much to watch before it'll take me a month to go through enough stuff to put out a video on, and so I watched like 4 or 5 of the things that I showed here, or I've already seen them, so it makes for a more interesting video, I think, and it's not too long either. All right, so that's what I picked up so far. There's other stuff I'll go through in another video. I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you for watching. Leave me a thumbs up if you so choose. Join the channel if you so choose. No pressure, but I would appreciate it. And you have a great day. All right, and I will talk to you in my next video. Bye for now.